everyone, and a very warm welcome to Cultivate Africa. My name is Ganzam Hore Robert, and I am the Conservation Agriculture Lead at ShareScreen Africa. I'm joined here by my colleague, Dany Mugisha, who is the coordinator at ShareScreen Africa, and together we're very, very happy to host you this evening. Now, a huge welcome to Cultivate Africa. This has been your virtual talk series designed to create a vibrant Pan-African community for everyone passionate about agriculture. Our mission is very simple. We want to bring together farmers, researchers, agronomists, lecturers, students to share their knowledge, discuss pressing challenges, and explore the innovative opportunities shaping our continent's soil-friendly farming. And now to kick us off tonight, it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Dany Mugisha, the founder and CEO of Cradle Ltd, an agribusiness startup focused on addressing non-consumption across agriculture value chains. With a strong background in conservation agriculture, particularly in mechanization and irrigation, Dany has always been a passionate community leader. Tonight, Dany will share his insights on why Africa's mechanization gap continues to keep many smallholder farmers trapped in poverty and what it would take to bridge that gap.
So thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I think I've seen a few names that seem to be familiar from the good old days. So it's really nice to reconnect with everyone. And thank you to ShareScreen for giving me this opportunity to really share what is not just, I wouldn't say is my story, but generally the story of small scale farmers here in Rwanda and the story of Cradle in general. And today we'll be exploring why Africa's mechanization gap is keeping smallholder farmers poor, and what, in my opinion, and you're welcome to challenge it, what it will take to close this gap, specifically in the Rwandan context, but in general within the East African context, and maybe hopefully if we can have someone bring the African context in general. So just a sec, let me see. Okay. Okay. All right. So fun fact in general, here in Rwanda, smallholder farmers produce 70% of what we eat, as in everything that we consume on a regular basis is produced by smallholder farmers. So this means people that own 2 hectares of land or less. And this is really important context. As we go through the presentation, we'll be able to understand increasingly why it's important for us to focus more and more on them, because they're really the backbone of our food system, not just in Rwanda, but in general. Yeah, so what we will cover today is the farmer's reality currently in Rwanda, the mechanization gap, what tools currently are available to them, and what they're currently using, why the gap persists. And then my favorite part, which will probably be the Cradle approach, which is a company I co-founded, and what it takes to scale the technology, and what Cradle is doing and the road ahead. So the first part is the farmer's reality. So currently in Rwanda, we have over 2 million plus households of farmers. And this is from a survey that was done close to 10 years ago. So we think that this number has probably increased. And 2 million farming households is just the households. So in each of the farming households, we count on average like 5 people or more within that household, which means this is a pretty significant number. As I said a bit earlier, 70% of East Africa's food is produced by smallholder farmers, so people who own 2 hectares or less. And currently in Rwanda, which I would say sadly, an average smallholder farmer owns 0.6 hectares of land, which is really, really small when it comes to producing food at scale. So it means it really interrupts generally the food system and how things are done. So yeah, another fact is there is no more land and our population keeps increasing. An interesting fact I saw is that yearly in Rwanda, our population increases by 3% every year, at least. So at least 3%. So sometimes 5%, but at least 3%, which means by 2050, yeah, you understand where our population will be. And in general, Rwanda's rural population is still at 68%, even with the increase of the growing of the cities that we currently have in Rwanda. But the good news is that things have been changing. So, for instance, seeds have been improving, which means we've been able to see some sort of growth when it comes to our yield. Irrigation projects have increased. The government has really put a focus on irrigation. So we don't really entirely focus on rain anymore. There is innovations around irrigation, so farm skills, farm management skills. So the farmers themselves are better equipped with various organizations or even the government itself really doing their best to train them, give them the technical and the managerial support that they need to grow their farming businesses and better market linkages. So markets in the world have really kind of opened up a lot more, and people are more aware because they probably were open even before, but people weren't aware of it. So there is, with the rise in connectivity in the rural area, people are more aware of where the markets are. I always see in general in WhatsApp groups, people doing sales over WhatsApp, selling goods that are worth millions of rand and francs online on WhatsApp, which is quite interesting. Um, yeah. But the thing that has really not changed here in Rwanda is the level of mechanization. And this is because of many reasons, but one of the reasons is really our healing landscape. So just the nature of our country in general, but also the sizes of our land. So 0.6 hectares, really, when you think of buying a tractor for 0.6 hectares, it really doesn't make any economic sense. So this has caused our country to really stay behind when it comes to mechanization. And currently, Rwanda is still five. So the level of mechanization in Rwanda is still at 5% of all arable land of where farming is done, which is quite sad. Yeah, with the level of population that we have to feed. And another interesting stat is 70 to 80% of the farmers' costs when they are doing their farming, 70 to 80% goes to labor or to mechanization. Or so this is the biggest cost for the farmer. This is where the farmer can make the most savings, and this is also one of the most critical when it comes to yield. But the level of innovation and change that has happened here is really minor over the past few years. So yeah. Um, just a sec. Okay. Yeah, there is no version of Rwanda that will properly feed itself, depending on an army of men with handholds. And this is what we mean with an army of men in general. Um, People wake up very early at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. They go to work in the fields. And as you can tell, most of these people are kind of older. The youngest are usually in their 50s and 60s. And an interesting fact that we've come to understand with our interactions with on the ground is younger people are more educated because it's a Rwandan policy. Young people have to go to school. When you're a parent and you take your child to the field instead of taking them to school, you'll face the consequences. So labor shortages are becoming a real thing, and labor is becoming really expensive for especially for the smallholder farmer. So availability is becoming a challenge because people are getting educated and they're preferring more dignified jobs, more labor-intensive jobs, and yeah, it's causing labor shortages and making it more expensive. And really, this version that takes forever. We cannot change, expect better yields, expect better growth with this level of mechanization. So with labor and hose being the only tool, it means that it's going to take 3 times more time to prepare the land, close to 50% crop losses. This is really generalized, but depending on which crop, sometimes, especially the crops where you have to transplant, people are exposed to over 40% yield losses because it takes much longer to transplant and there is more time for the seedling to be exposed to sunlight and dry out, or even be exposed to some sort of diseases that cause the yield to be lost. And with this trend, the average daily income for smallholder farmers in sub-Saharan Africa, this is kind of generalized as well, but this is really for Rwanda is at around $2, which means that the smallholder farmers are going to be trapped um, in cycles of poverty. Now, this is a chart that shows over the past 50 to 80 years how sub-Saharan Africa is really behind when it comes to how many tractors are owned. I know this is again this is really context specific because I understand there's countries where farming is really more large scale, but in general, within the East African context, this is what we have. We have around three tractors per 100 kilometers squared of arable land within Rwanda. And yeah, this is just simply not going to do it when it comes to fast tracking our increase in innovation and increase in technology for the agriculture space. So now, specifically for the Rwandan context, this problem is a double-edged sword, and this is what is making the problem more difficult to solve. Because on one end, which scares away investors, on one end, the terrain problem. Rwanda is really hilly, and this is why we're given the name a land of 1,000 hills. And most global machinery, most machines are really large scale. They're big tractors and they're built for big planes. And that scale of mechanization is really just not suitable for the topography of Rwanda. And in some other instances, for instance, for machinery that was produced in China or generally in Asia, most of the machinery is really tested in sandy soil conditions, yet Rwanda has clay soil conditions, which means our land is kind of firmer. And it means that the machine that we needs to have a certain type of torque to be able to work here compared to what it will be able to do on the other side. And that kind of create a mismatch when it comes to the technology in particular cases, because I recognize the fact that there's manufacturers out there that have really figured it out when it comes to the African context or the East African context in general. And then on the farmer's side, this was on the investor's side. On the farmer's side, affordability is a problem because just the sheer scale of the tractors, some tractors are $50,000, $80,000, and we're talking of people who own on average 0.6 hectares of land. This is just too expensive for them to afford, and it keeps them in some sort of cycle of poverty because their level of production is really limited to what they can do with their physical strength. Yeah. And yeah, in general, the farmers don't have the skill to operate complex machinery. This requires maintenance, not just regular maintenance like oil change, but there is regular, generally with machinery, there's regular problems. So I would say the mechanical landscape as well has not evolved enough for them to especially for the farmers, for them to really kind of justify the investment. In terms of financing, they really don't have proper credit history because they don't have proper data to get closer to financial institutions. Some financial institutions have started understanding that farming is a business, but it's a particular business because money comes seasonally, 3 times a year or sometimes twice a year. So you can't expect someone to pay their loans monthly and stuff like that. There is fintechs that are really innovating around farmers and fintechs that are innovating around data collection for farmers for them to have a better, for financial institutions to have a better understanding of the risk that they're taking in terms of financing farmers. But in general, we're still kind of behind when it comes to all these things. Um, yeah, in summary, this is really just what I just said. The upfront cost is really high, no service infrastructure, the supply chain gaps, and the farmer trust gap. Yeah, I'd also talked about this one. So yeah, this is more or less what we were talking about. So the low incomes and limited access to finance are limiting the farmers. So this is kind of a cycle that the farmers have been trapped in for the past few decades when it comes to growth in the mechanization space. Yeah. Now, I'll come to the Cradle approach. First of all, Rwanda has really done an amazing job when it comes to making its vision and its policy frameworks clear as far as the agriculture space in general, but the mechanization space. Both the National Plan for Strategic Transformation references mechanization, but the strategic plan for agriculture transformation as well. But there are also clear plans of, especially a new policy that has just come in, which I wasn't able to put in here, is Rwanda has started, there is a policy of land consolidation that has been around for a minute now. Its success level is good, but it didn't yield the results that were anticipated. But there's new food basket sites that allow for like kind of like more intensive agriculture and allows for really to make sure that really Rwanda is feeding themselves. And there's also clear data on, let's say, for instance, in our case, things that are relevant is like the slope um, 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 of an area. Such data is available. Which areas are going to have like concentrated agriculture. All those things are available. And what this has meant for us as Credo is for us to really support a vision that was already established by the government and not work against what the government is planning, but for all our effort to fall within what Rwanda wants to do. And yeah, it has also, in our case, we've benefit from considerable investment from the government, which we cannot deny. So there is a deliberate effort by the government to have this work. And this is basically what we bring to the table as Cradle. So we recognize all the problems that we mentioned prior. One, Rwanda is really hilly, so it requires for innovation around our technology. So we cannot just bring big tractors that are built for large-scale farming, large. Of course, we will have them for spaces. We do recognize that there are spaces where you have cooperatives where you'll have large-scale farmers here and there. So we have those tractors as well, big tractors in operating, especially within the eastern part of Rwanda. But we also have smaller tractors that are built for our yields. Now, I did not attach a picture of the kind of technology that we're currently using, but this includes two-wheel tractors that were really, I would say, remodeled or redesigned to fit the purpose of working in Rwanda. And we also recognize that farmers do not have the capacity to buy our tractors or our technology. So we give it to them on a pay per hectare or a pay per acre type of model. So the farmer remains with the type of mode of payment that they were used to with casual labor. And what we have seen is that adoption becomes much easier compared to you trying to sell them a technology that one, they cannot afford, some can, but most of them will not be able to afford it. But this will promote a model where they have it, they use it, but then they use it for a season, for a few days in the season, and then now it has to be idle and all of that. And for the farmer who's a businessman, that's not an investment that makes sense. We have also realized that in general, people tend to like create fancy technology like apps or other technology for the or websites or other technology for the farmers to use those to book the services. But what we've realized is most of the farmers don't have access to such fancy technology like fancy phones and all of these. So in general, they really use the small phones that I think most of us know them. So what we decided is we took a model that's already functional for them. The the way we usually pay for things, for instance, mobile money. Basically, I feel like Rwanda has grown into becoming a really cashless economy because whoever you ask knows how to pay with mobile money, knows how to get information, and this is the model that the government is adopting as well when it comes to paying for things like healthcare and all of these things. So we just use the same model for farmers for it to be easy for us to get the farmers on board when it comes to them ordering the service, but they can also just really do a normal call and we'll help them to log their request manually as well. And we also have last mile reach. So we are in person with the farmers so that we build a relationship because in general, farmers live in communities. So this allows them to create a relationship. There's an element of trust that needs to be in there. The traditional mode of delivery would have um, um, you set up a center, usually close to the main road, which is not really where the farmers are, or usually in the city, and then you have to travel to those places every time. That has its perks, but in general, being closer to the farmers helps. So yeah, this is what they do. You dial the USSD, you tell us what service you want, you put your location and your details in general. We confirm the price, and then we dispatch the machine within 24 to 48 hours of your booking, and we offer you the service. Now, these are our current main services, but hopefully, I cannot disclose it now, but hopefully soon we'll have more services on board. So far, this is what we've been able to do in roughly 1, 2 seasons that we've been in operation. We've done over 50 hectares to date. And then people that we served in the first season that came back is over 60%. And so far we've had 3 times the demand that we are able to service. So which is a good problem, but yeah, we're hoping for more capacity to be able to serve more farmers. Yeah, and this is what generally mechanization does to a farmer's unit economics. So first of all, it's really much faster, 40 times faster than using human labor. For you to be as fast as a machine, let's say when it comes to doing 1 hectare of land, you probably need to have like 300 people on your 1 hectare of land for you to be able to be that fast. And in most cases, this is a general statistic, but um, mechanization is like a third of the cost in general. In our case, in most cases, we haven't been able to get to this number, but we're usually around the same price as labor or lower. We've never really been more expensive than labor. Yeah, so you save over 15% in terms of time, which is really good when it comes to saving your seedlings, and then generous savings yet to be proven in our case, or this data hasn't been collected in our case, but this is the general research by the FAO that you save 20 to 30%. The yield increases from 20 to 30% when you use tractors. And yeah, so this is one of the things I've translated it personally that the farmers are telling us. Before Cradle, I spent 3 weeks preparing my land with the hoe because this was really a farmer that was doing it and a few other people operating over 3 hectares of land, and now it takes one afternoon. So this is primary and secondary land prep, which is really important, especially for this kind of farmer who waits for the rain, who doesn't really have any sort of irrigation. Yeah, so this is really what we just went through. When the farmers own it, this is what they have to go through. It's really expensive. And for the farmer to bear the full cost, they don't really have the training necessary. When the machine breaks, there is delays when it comes to credit. These are all risks that the farmers that don't really want to take on. And then when it comes to Credo, these problems are solved for the farmer and are taken in by the company. Now, what it takes to scale this, um, it's really so when we started Credo, some of the things that we are doing now were not the things we were doing. For instance, we did not have a USSD booking system because initially we thought we would go big digital app like everyone else, or even just bring the tractors and the technology and copy paste. But it took time to learn on the ground what works. So yeah, so really it's to kind of introduce the bit by bit farmers to mechanization because some of them aren't familiar, haven't seen a tractor at all, even though they have been in agriculture for a long time. So that's a really big one, just introduction to the farmers. Um, and in some cases, machines have been brought to the farmers, but they have failed just because of the topography of the land, because they were just too big for the farms. So really just bringing in things or technology that really suits the terrain. And then the payment issue, yeah, this is a big one. So for us to really penetrate certain markets, to we served a particular farmer for free, but this was like the opinion leader or the farmers that are leaders in their communities and are considered examples when it comes to the agriculture space. And this has allowed farmers to trust us more, even when it comes to payment. So farmers are generally scared because most service providers want money upfront, which makes sense. for them. But yeah, sometimes you really have to adapt and have and show for the first time, show them that they can pay afterwards, and then you build a relationship, and then long term, you can reintroduce your prepayment methods as well, and really use local context, not just in terms of the USSD technology that I've been talking about, but also using the local language and really minimizing barrier and making sure that the farmers see you as one of theirs. Yeah, these we talked about when it comes to what makes Rwanda's terrain a bit different. Um, Yeah, so this is what using USSD provides to us. So it gives us data that that can help us really understand better the farmer. I will not really go into it, but this is really where the farmers are, how much time it takes, um, um, maybe yield or other data that we can collect that can allow us to internally be able to better predict the demand in terms of mechanization, but can also inform like policy and agronomy people that are in the agronomic space and all of that. Yeah, so what it's going to take to solve this problem is really a consolidated effort by everyone that operates in the space. There is the government that's really doing an amazing job, but also the private sector pumping in investment, trying to innovate around it, financial institutions to innovate around it, research institutions as well, because there is spaces where the technology is not there yet, especially, for instance, in the rice value chain. It's really important that research institutions and also generally manufacturing spaces really get there, and also the farmers themselves really giving us feedback on when it comes to how we are doing. Yeah, so we're a bit out of time, but in general, what this is gonna mean is, um, well, more food in general. It's kind of implied because all the other factors are being worked on. So mechanization also needs to grow as well, as much as the seed space is growing, and all the other spaces are growing. So this is gonna improve the income and create more skilled jobs, really reduce um, in certain cases, diseases that come from being exposed to the sun, to stagnant water, that the rural communities face. So it's going to have a good impact on the healthcare space as well. And yeah, women are going to be more empowered because when it comes to operating a machine, it's not physical strength that matters. It's really just your skill and your brains and your ability to use a machine. And this will allow for more women to yeah, operate in the space. So yeah, if you're an investor, really, I'm looking forward to connecting and really looking for ways to work together to invest in the space to close the gap. If you're in policy, one, you're doing a good job, but we still have growth to happen. Research institutions, the same. There is still technological advancements that need to happen. And for farmers, it's really just being open-minded to receiving these kinds of services and adopting them. Yeah, so yeah, the farmer has been waiting for generations for the right solution, and this is the smallholder farmer. It's time for us to really break the cycle of poverty that is in the farmers and yeah, put the right tools in the hands that feed us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dany. I really think this model of yours is so much needed in the country, considering that most of the times we bring in solutions from the outside, but then we just don't apply it to our own context. And the fact that you are remodeling, let's say the two-wheel tractor and adapt it to our own terrain, our hilly mountains and small size of land. I think you're doing a great job, and I can only wish you for a continued success. And I have a few questions. I want to start with a small one. You mentioned that smallholder farmers produce 70% of East Africa's food. To me, this is a good amount of production, um, considering the issues our farmers face, crop diseases. You mentioned them, limited irrigation system, poor seed system. To me, 70% is a good amount of food production that I wasn't expecting our agriculture sector to be producing. My question is, what do you think is keeping the farmers afloat despite all these issues? What do you think is keeping farmers at bay? Um, I think I can answer the second one or give you a moment to answer this. What do you suggest?
I think it's better we go question by question. So
All
I
right.
don't I can also note them down though.
Good.
Yeah, so farmers produce 70% of the food. That's a fact, but they also own most of the land. So almost the entire country is really owned by them. So 70%, even though it's good, it's really not not there yet when it comes to if you compare to you compare the amount of land that they own in general within the country. I don't know the exact statistic, but I'm sure it's above 80% of the land that's being cultivated. They can do better if they were empowered to be there, especially when it comes to the tools that they use, because um, all the other spaces, honestly, the government, especially in Rwanda, has done an amazing job. The seed space, especially, has been growing, which is one of the most important factors. But also the policies are clear. Farmers are supported when it comes to credit. Crop insurance is there. So a lot is being done in the space, but we're not there yet. The land is not producing up to its potential. And the factor that is kind of remaining kind of untouched is the mechanization space, just simply because the problems there are kind of enormous, and it needs people to really take the time to adapt the solutions, the technology itself, the delivery model to the type of farmer that we have. So
Mm.
yeah, I would say that's I'm not sure if I answered your question right, but that's
No, you
really
did.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. You did. To me, the reason for the question is we first need to understand what's working before taking a step towards solving what's not working. You might want to solve what's not working, but again, cause another problem of harming what was working. So understand what's working for the smallholder farmers and maybe get to understand later on what's not working is, to my understanding, is the best way forward. And my other question is on your core for the room. You mentioned on the last part that if you are a farmer, you need to have an open mind. Maybe in your case, in the case of Cradle Limited, you've worked with many farmers. My question is, for the small amount of simple mechanization tools we have currently, without even looking ahead and think about those sensors, those apps, for the simple mechanization tools we have, what's the willingness of farmers to use these small, I mean, simple mechanization tools? I've had something like small scale irrigation technology where farmers are provided with a pump and a flushing pipe to help
Mm.
them irrigate their crops. For those simple mechanization tools, what's the willingness like for the farmers to adopt these tools?
Um, so the farmers are really different. So there's like the younger farmers who are kind of younger and are doing it professionally. For them, it's really like a straightforward path. But for like the older farmers that are used to mobilizing people and doing that, sometimes it really needs you to just like display it in person because these are like stories that you're telling them. This is something that they've never been exposed to. I wish I brought the pictures, but maybe these are things that we can put on our website, or even we have a WhatsApp channel as well, where we post some of these things, some of these farmer stories. Maybe people who are interested can join. But there's when we brought a machine first to a community within Bugesera called Mareba, we could see I saw a level of excitement I had never seen before because this is something they had never seen in their lives. This is to them, this was like an airplane coming into their communities. So they are skeptical, and understandably so, because this is something that they've never seen. This is something they've never been exposed to. So you need to display and demonstrate, maybe lose that money at first, and then in the long run, gain the farmer, gain the trust. But also something that has worked for us is really work with the local government, especially in the Rwandan context where everyone, and I mean everyone, just trusts the government to a level we've simply never seen elsewhere. For instance, I have co-founders. One is from Kenya, one is from Ethiopia, and they're always amazed by the level of trust that the people have for their government because it's not generally the case. So when you're introduced by the local government, it gives you a certain level of credibility that you wouldn't otherwise have. And in some instances, you can skip the step of having to demonstrate for free and stuff like that.
Mm, mm. I mean, that's an asset. I believe we are blessed to have, and the only prayer we can we can put forward is the continued good governance. She said, "I am Philster Akech from South Sudan. Talking of terrain adaptive machinery, what can work for a context like the South Sudan wetland areas where the floods have never gone?"
I'm honestly not familiar with the South Sudan wetland. It's not a context that I'm familiar with. But when it comes to technological advance, like the technological aspect of it, in general, there's honestly still a gap. It's not that the technology entirely does not exist, but there is still a gap because, for instance, for us, before we found a machine that really worked properly for us um, on 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 the Rwandan context, and when I say on the Rwandan context, I don't mean in the on the flat side of Rwanda because there it's really straightforward. It's a big tractor, but in places where the slope is significant, there's cases where mechanization is simply not possible. If the slope is above 30%, then honestly, it's not going to work. But in most cases, there's terraces. But for us to really to come back to the question, for us to find the technology that actually worked for us, we went kind of burnt money on like one first machine, which we thought was optimal and was perfect for us, but really did not work in our conditions. And later we're able to find something that worked, especially in the West African context, in places that have hilly landscapes as well. So yeah, so sometimes I know it's not straightforward, but when you do the research, especially in Japan, Japan has really interesting technology, but also see where it has worked. Where has it worked before? What results has it yielded? And you take the risk sometimes. You just have to take the risk and see if that's going to work in your particular context. But you really need to have a checklist of things that it needs to be able to do and do the research and sometimes go there in person if this is something that's possible for you. So yeah, I'm not familiar with the South Sudanese context, but yeah, I understand that this is sometimes the technology is lacking in country, and you have to do a bit extra research and then maybe go see the technology in person elsewhere.
Mm. I think this calls for what you just mentioned when you were ending during the call for the room. I think is what you just named it. For the investors um put money in different um prototypes or see if they can invest more money in these tools and see what works. I think for wetlands is a different a different type of farmland to look at. So this calls for investment, just like you said.
Yeah.
We have a question from Naomi. She said your model relies on USSD to improve accessibility. What have been the challenge in encouraging smallholder farmers to adopt this service? And how have you built trust among first-time users?
So the model, well, first of all, the model is not fully out there. I'm sorry, there's a helicopter passing by. So the model is fully not out there. We don't want to put a half-baked product out there, but the model has started to be used by farmers that I would say are kind of in our community or farmers that we've been working with so that they give us feedback so we see what we can improve and all of these things before we roll it out. It's gonna be out latest in the next 1 or 2 months. Fully operational for like the general public to use. But I would say in terms of technological gap, that part is not there because really farmers are generally used to the USSD system, short code system. This is something that they use on a regular basis. So when it comes to training, you just tell them this is our short code and then follow the instructions. Of course, there's going to be a gap where some of the farmers cannot read, but they usually get help from whoever is closest to them because for whoever can read, this is something that's straightforward. And then when it comes to trust, this is really something that's I want to say is case by case. In some instances, this is something that was pretty straightforward. People trusted us depending on who introduced us in the space, who welcomed us in the space. For instance, we recently started working within Gashora sector. Um, 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 Last month was kind of our first month of operation, preparing people to start operating within Gashora sector for the next season. And things were pretty straightforward. We went there today. The next day, we had a client. We introduced ourselves to the local community, local government. They brought in the model farmers, kind of. We told them how we work. We had a client the next day. But this was not the case in Mareva, for instance. So we had to like, so it's really case by case. It really depends on who introduces you and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, we also got a question from Chubahiro Diodone, and he's asking why did Cradle begin operations in East, yet we know this part of the country accommodates large-scale mechanization. Why not the North and West, where we know the terrain is complicated for large-scale machines, but suitable for small machines like these you use?
Mm. So for us, it's two things when we started. So we started within Bugesera, and if it's for two or three reasons. So the first one was the already established connection, the already established network. I went to Ricardo University. We have one colleague. He hasn't been, he started as a consultant for us, but Felix, I'm sure those who went to Rica know him, is currently working with us, but started as a consultant. So we already had like established connections within Bugesera sector, the government side, but also us as people, like the personal connections that we had. Number two is within the government's plans of where most of the agriculture is going to be done. Bugesera has been allocated the most land for agriculture, basically for agriculture in general in the master plan of the country. So that was a pretty interesting fact. So we thought we need to have our roots within the Bugesera space because this is going to be one of the main food baskets of the country. And in terms of logistics, most of us live in Kigali, so Bugesera is really right next door. So it made sense financially, especially for startups. Any coin counts. It made sense for us to really be close to Kigali. But also, Bugesera has kind of all the landscapes, especially for us, because now we call it the pilot stage, even though we were fully operational as a business. But we really wanted to prove a business case, especially for early stage startups like ours, who need investment. You really need to kind of prove a point to the investors. And Bugesera has like kind of all the the types of landscapes that you can find in Rwanda. There is places in Bugesera that are like flat, but there is other places where you'll see kind of not full hills, but some sort of hills that still allow for mechanization. So it was a really good testing ground for us because we bring mechanization as a whole. We are focusing on smallholder farmers, but we also have bigger tractors that are, even when we were starting, were our main kind of money generators because it's really just like easy for us to roll out. So for all those reasons, we decided that Bugesera was an easy place for us to start. The next one was Kwamagana, which is even more hilly and where we've been kind of operational for this past season. Yeah, that's how we got to the eastern part. It's proximity mostly, though.
Mm. No, I think he asked another question. But in maybe to supplement what you just said, we consider Bugesera a flat terrain, but if you look at the terrain compared to other countries' terrain, it's just that we appreciate what we have at the moment, but it's not that it's that flat. It's just that that's what we have. And considering the numbers, the average farm size, still it's 0.6. Whether you are in Bugesera, whether you are in the north or west, you're going to work on 0.6, which I think your model is trying to facilitate. He also asked, why did Cradle choose USSD code booking system instead of a smartphone application? That's one question. The other one is, what competitive advantage does Cradle have over other mechanization service providers that operates in your operating areas?
Yeah. So for the USSD booking system, instead of a smartphone application, this really came out of an understanding of the context that the farmers we're working with are used to. So using USSD allows us to not spend a lot of money when it comes to training. We would need to have some sort of network of agents that will be out there to, onboard clients. But we want this to be kind of the Bukorere, those who are used to Irembo, where, farmers are really able to do this for themselves. So we opted for the USSD system simply because it's easy for everyone random to use, regardless of your level of technological literacy or or as long as you can read, you can use the USSD booking system. And yeah, that was really what we wanted because the volume, they still have the option of using a normal phone call, but sometimes the volume becomes high and it becomes kind of impossible for you to collect certain data. Sometimes you forget the person that you talked to last season, but the system knows that this person was there last season, and you don't have to put them through the same questions of where are you? We want to visit you to see the condition of your land and all of those things. So USSD came out of an understanding of what the farmers are used to. And then I would say in terms of our competitive advantage, would really, well, first of all, we really don't think there's anyone we're directly competing with because our business model is not similar to anyone. We don't think anyone is focusing, at least as far as we know, is focusing on small scale farmers. And that's really from day one who we are focusing on and who is the biggest portion. Now, this comes with challenges, and we don't discard this large scale farmer who is kind of the low hanging fruit and is accessible for us in terms of keeping our cash flow healthy. We still serve those farmers, and in that case, in that kind of segment of it all, we are like your traditional, in terms of our technology, your traditional tractor service. But in terms of who we are as Cradle and who we are at our core, we are focused on small scale farmers, and this is who we are. We wake up to serve on a regular basis. This is why we do what we do. And no one is currently doing that, and no one is using the technology that we're using, or bringing in the experts that we have tried to bring in so far. So, yeah, I'm not sure if I answered.
Yes, thank you, Robert. And thank you to Dany for a great presentation and for amazing work that credit that you're doing. So my question is might be different from what others have been asking. I know you went to a university that was promoting conservation agriculture, and as someone who has been on a field, doing businesses, promoting modernized agriculture, mechanization, and there is a perception here outside that mechanization, conservation, agriculture kind of go against each other. They don't work together. So, with your experience, do you think how can these two systems complement one another? And if yes, what type of machine could be put in place, or some of the practices that could support conservation as we're in the journey of modernizing agriculture as well?
Yeah. So not only they should mechanization and conservation agriculture should coexist, but in my opinion, they have to coexist in terms for us to really be able to achieve our goals. One of the main goals of conservation agriculture, in general, conservation agriculture not only conserves the land, the soil, keeps the soil healthy, the soil biology and chemistry healthy in the long run, but in the present also should be able to increase your yields. Now, mechanization, especially the mechanization that we're trying to adopt, conserves that. For instance, one of the things that one of the pillars of conservation agriculture is for a place to be able to do things like intercropping, for instance. Large tractors, just the nature of smallholder farmers just love doing intercropping. You'll have trees in the same space that the person is trying to have some other crop, maybe some sort of beans or nuts in the same space. So us having smaller machines allows the farmer to maintain their trees, which they wouldn't be able to maintain with large conventional tractors. So I believe just the nature of how smallholder farmers operate kind of promotes certain principles of conservation agriculture. So in that sense, we're aligned. But something else that we're trying to do, and the technology is not yet there, but this is something that we're always on the lookout for, is always make sure that we use where possible, because in some cases it's really commercial activity, large scale commercial activity, and it's not possible, where possible, to use conservation agriculture implements. And these are available in certain instances. For our smallholder machines, we have them, especially when it comes to not tilling the entire space, but really just tilling where a seed is going to be planted. So it's there. Now for the big tractors, I know the technology is available in certain spaces, but I wouldn't say that we're fully there. So I think in general, this is an approach that we keep. This is something that we promote, especially when we do kind of extension on the side. The technology still needs to meet all the criteria, but in some cases, I would say that we are able to really align with conservation agriculture, especially for smallholder farmers.
No, thank you so much, Dany. I think we are towards the end of our discussion, but I've been having a question for a long time. You talked about it a little while you're presenting on the model you have now, and my question is on the use of these, I'd say, sophisticated machineries. If you're looking at sensors, uh, um, you call them fancy apps, but I'd say farm management softwares that give us information, right information we need, maybe to start planting, or even the right crops to plant in the soil. With the current changing climate, I think, yes, the farmers they do not have the right skills now to use all those sensors and apps, but the changing climate is not going to wait for us until we get our farmers right and educate them with their skills. My question to you is, what's your viewpoint on this? And from your experience working with smallholder farmers, do you think there's still a huge gap? Do you think the government needs to put maybe more emphasis, more subsidies in the application of these tools, and where are we how ready are we with the changing climate?
I think these are really important and crucial. This is crucial technology that we'll need to get to at some point. But I would say right now, the biggest demographic in the agriculture space is still on the older end, and I would say tech proficiency is not there yet. So I think this is something, especially for a service like ours, I would say such a platform, especially on the front end that the customer deals with, is really not necessary. Now, on the back end, in our case, for instance, on our platform, we include things like elevation in the space. So when you tell us a space where you're at, we will kind of know the kind of slope that you have in your area for us to really understand the kind of machinery that we need to bring to you. We will kind of include like some sort of weather forecast, because when it rains, we're not able to work for you. For us to tell you we'll be able to come today or tomorrow, or because it's going to rain today and tomorrow, we'll come the day after tomorrow. So on the back end, we're still including all those things because it's really important when it comes to delivery on our end. But for the farmer, we don't think, especially for those that are on the older side of things, they're ready yet. Now, I do think there's a demographic that is ready for it, and I think I see a high level of adoption of precision agriculture tools, especially all these sensors, especially people that are in like greenhouses, because this is something that the government is really trying to invest in and trying to encourage people to invest in as well. People that operate in such spaces, I think the technology is really valuable for them and they are already there. But I think in our case, this is not something that most of our customers kind of need in the moment, but we're able to tell them, to advise them from the information that we have on our backend, because we do provide a little bit of extension, even though it's not who we are at our core. But we think mechanization itself is not enough for us to achieve our goal of increased yield. It's many moving parts. So we try to really advise them from the information that we have. So yeah, so it's important, it's needed, but in most cases, I don't think we are there yet.
Thank you so much. Well, a huge thank you, Dany. Thank you to our audience. I've seen familiar names: Dieudonné, Chubahiro, Assumpta, Hope, Annie, Fiona. Thank you so much for being here. Maybe before we call it a night, Dany, if you can give us some parting words, and yeah, that would be a great way to end this.
Yeah, it's really to thank you, Robert, and Diane, Naomi, and generally the Share Screen Africa team for picking an interest in what we're doing at Cradle, because this was really kind of informed by what our story and what we are seeing on the ground. But yeah, we welcome anyone who wants to operate in the space, is interested, wants to talk. We are really open. And it's also really nice to see familiar names. I was going to say faces, but mostly names in the space. My mentor, Dieudonné, Sumta, and all the others. It's really nice to see.
Thank you so much, Dany.